Hello and welcome to this week's episode of GIANT's Healthy Innovators TV. My name is Barry Shrier. I'm your host. I'm the founder of GIANT Health. GIANT is an acronym which stands for Global Innovation and New Technology. We're a global community of everybody whose business is healthcare, technology, and innovation. And our vision is to improve the health and the well-being of people around the world by accelerating the adoption of new technologies to deliver better healthcare outcomes at lower cost. What we love to do is to bring to you on these weekly episodes some of the leaders from around the world who are at the forefront of creating new technologies and driving innovation in healthcare. So, as always, very, very proud to bring you this week's participant. Hello, Matt. We have Matt from Toca. How are you, Matt?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Nice to see you, and I'm glad you could join us. Before we begin, we just want to thank our sponsors. So thank you to our knowledge partner, McKinsey & Co. Thank you also to Vodafone Business, Barclays International Bank, and also thank you to Toca, who are a sponsor and involved in the GIANT Health event this year. Really glad to be working with you guys. So as a reminder to our listeners, every year we do a big international event. The Financial Times calls it Europe's largest, most valuable healthcare tech event. And it's on the 30th of November and the 1st of December in London, England. The whole event is also broadcast as a hybrid event. So everybody from around the world can participate digitally. You can participate remotely. So check out our website, www.giant.health, and we invite you all to come to the event, the GIANT Health event, this year on the 30th of November, 1st of December. So Matt, we'd love to hear a little bit about your background to begin with, and then obviously very excited to hear about what you're doing currently and challenges in society that relate to the work you're doing. But to begin with, let's share with our listeners some of your background. Did you dream of being an entrepreneur from a young age, or tell us a little bit about your upbringing and background, please?
Yeah, no one's ever asked me that. Yeah, I guess I did. I was always making small businesses with my friends when we were kids, and so the answer to that is yes. I didn't have a traditional academic background for a number of reasons. And I early 2000s, I effectively went into the corporate world and wanted to work for some big logos. And I think I found myself a few years into that. I think it was about 10, 12 years or so.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to do something else. And
was that commercial work you were doing, or engineering, or scientific?
Well, yeah, I started in telecoms. Working for people like Agilent Technologies. Agilent obviously work across a number of different areas now. Keysight Technologies.
Yeah.
They spun from HP. I then worked for Nortel, who are no longer, but founded and created most of the technology that we, the early internet was built on.
Nice.
And then a couple of other great companies like Vodafone, PA Consulting, Atos as well, a fantastic company I work for.
Cool.
The driving desire really to found Toca was, I guess, running projects in public sector and private sector. You're always doing something that's you're not creating brand new tech.
Right.
That's
sure.
Really what people want. They're looking for ERP systems or CRM or some digital transformation of something. And so really, I'm a chartered engineer. From a young age, I've liked to build and create systems, and Toca, I guess, is just it's something that satisfies all those desires effectively for creating systems and creating new technology. But ultimately, one of my probably biggest passions is creating technology that means other people can create technology. And so it's kind of a double whammy. And
building platform, so to speak.
A platform, exactly. I love it when other people can build and put their ideas into play.
Yes.
I hate friction when you can get something out to market. So that kind of sums up what Toca's about, I guess.
Cool. Yeah, no, very, very interesting, and very interesting to hear about your background and the journey that you've had, and obviously congratulations on what you have accomplished already with Toca, which is very impressive. So some of our listeners might not be aware of Toca. Tell us exactly what the business is. When did you found it, and what exactly do you guys do?
We founded around about 2017 as a project.
Right.
The initial idea was to build some software that would control a physical real robotic platform for controlling touchscreen devices and things like that. We never really did any research into the market and whether the idea was ultimately needed.
Right.
The good thing out of that was we were talking with a company who said, we really like the software that you've built, the
Right.
prototype software to control the robotics. And that really pushed us into a software robotics angle. So really what Toca is it's firstly an automation platform. It's a platform that can integrate lots of different systems and control lots of different systems. And just to join up how we went from physical robotics to doing that is the software we wrote to control the physical robotics was what's called no code. It's what's called no code today. And quite simply, all that is it means you don't need to program. You don't need to be a developer. You don't need to have spent years learning how, to program a special language to make that machine do something. And so our software, our proposition for allowing people to do quite complex actions with systems, but without having to program, is kind of first and foremost what Toca does. We've evolved slightly over the years, and I can come on to that in a bit.
Sure.
But that's ultimately been the journey so far. We've just closed our second funding round, and every time you close a funding round, things just get quicker, faster, bigger, and so
yes, yes,
it's busy.
I hope you've begun planning the third funding round already.
I'm sure it'll come round quicker than we want. It's going to happen. Yeah.
So this concept of no code is extremely interesting. Help us to understand that further, please. Is it the case, therefore, that there is lots of people out there that have, how do I say this, that have programming requirements, but they're not a programmer and they don't want to recruit a programmer? So they have programming requirements, whatever they may be, but they're not a coder. They don't want to recruit coders. So no code is the answer. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. I mean, no code is a tool for both developers and particularly our platform for technical business analysts. So developers can get a long way with our platform. I'll explain then what we mean by no code. So if we look at a high code system, high code project, if you've got to integrate a couple of platforms, you're going to need developers within a leading language, Java, C#, Python. You're going to need systems that you're going to write that code onto. You've got to hire those developers. You're probably going to need to plan out your software project and go through a full software delivery lifecycle just to kind of build your technology, build your platform. What you get with our platform is really the opposite end of the spectrum. You've got a fabric, you've got a layer that's already installed into your business. And you've got capabilities to be able to control access, control GUI platforms, old looking or even green screen, which we've had. We have one customer who has, right through to API platforms. So we can control any system. We could talk to databases, the whole lot. And really what you're doing is you're configuring our main sort of blocks that will go off and do all the complicated stuff.
Nice.
If you want to program, you can. And we have a high code layer within our system so that we believe that the ultimate solution is that business analysts and technical business analysts can now almost deliver the full project or most of the demands within a business or within a trust. And that developers can come in and the developers actually enhance what those analysts can do. The team makeup slightly changes. Instead of all of the weight sitting on the developer's shoulders, it can then be spread across the team. You see about a 10 to 20 times speed up in the actual development process within a standard technology technology deliverable, I'll call it.
Yeah. That's enormous. 10 to 20 times increase is quite profound.
Yeah.
Tell us, how does this fit in the world of healthcare? Are you guys working directly for healthcare providers, or what are issues in healthcare that can be resolved by you guys and your services?
Yeah, so we here in the UK we work with a number of NHS trusts.
Nice.
I'll be open. We originally said we weren't going to sell to the NHS.
Oh,
It
okay.
looked far too complicated. We thought we'd better take our technology elsewhere. But a local IT director of our local trust was passing our window where our office was. We put a small advert in the window that said visit toca.io, and he
Yeah.
did. Luckily, we picked up his email, and that was kind of the start. Our local trust here in Berkshire are very innovative.
Oh,
They
nice.
like to work with new companies, new technology, and their
Cool.
problem really, they had three problems. Firstly, they wanted to close down an endoscopy and sigmoidoscopy platform, which was
Okay.
old, not supported anymore, and it held a few million records. To do it with people was going to take them a number of years and a small team, and it'd be a horribly repetitive and mundane job. It wouldn't be
Sure.
a practical way of closing that system down. And so we built some automation with Toca. We proved our platform to them. I think we built the first bit of automation within a couple of days, tweaked it thereafter, and that
Right.
ran for 3 months solid and closed that platform down.
Yeah.
We worked in a number of other areas, but that was kind of the starting point ultimately for how we got involved with the NHS, and since
Nice.
then we've been growing steadily. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, congratulations. And I love, to be honest about it, I love the, what do you want to call it? The serendipity, this chap walking by your window and discovering things. But of course, you make your own luck, don't you? So that's quite cool. So one example is this NHS trust where they had this, what do you call it? This legacy system, which had to be, what's the word for it? Archived or made available in a newer platform. And you were able to resolve that by way of not asking 10,000 hours of somebody sitting in front of an Excel spreadsheet, copying and pasting or whatever. What are other examples in healthcare? Because as you know, obviously we have listeners from around the world working in all areas of healthcare, and everybody would love to know more about Toca and the applications.
So more recently, within the last couple of years, we moved into adding applications and a no-code app building layer onto our product.
Right.
So we started with automation, and you can look at automation as a means of integrating or interoperating with systems. And interoperability is obviously the word of the day, particularly here in the UK within the NHS. What we then did is automation is great at connecting systems, but it's not very good at connecting you and I. We don't like to stare at a spreadsheet or stare at a data file, right? And so what we did is we built a no-code apps layer, which allows you to build applications, quite complicated applications. So more recently, we've been working in an area that involves multidisciplinary teams, and in an area around cancer pathways. And just in summary, one of the problems we have, particularly here in the UK, is, and particularly within cancer pathways, is a trust can have a number of systems where a patient's data sits.
Right.
What you're then doing, if you have data that's siloed and fragmented across a number of systems, is you're putting the onus and the hindrance back onto the clinician to be able to look across a number of platforms, to be able to get a single patient view, but also the clinician then having to play sync, synchronizing the data between the platforms.
Okay.
So you're not making decisions easy, and then you're adding extra time, extra onus onto clinicians who should really be focusing on what they do, right? What they do best.
Yes, exactly.
And some of the trusts then have administrative teams that they back that off onto, but you're kind of patching over the problem. So what we've built with Toca is we've got the apps layer, which allows you to build an application that interfaces into the clinicians. And then we use various automations at the back end to connect to things like the Somerset Cancer Register, radiology platforms, and what have you, so that the data can remain siloed, but you can still get that single patient view. So you kind of get the best of both worlds then.
Right.
So the platform is, we call Toca a fabric. It allows you to build the no-code apps, which are for us.
Yeah.
And then you've got the automation, which includes things like RPA, but not predominantly just RPA.
Okay.
to be able to connect into legacy platforms.
Yes,
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Sure. Is this part of the broader discussion that comes up that comes up constantly when you're talking about IT and healthcare, and that is interoperability? Are you referring to just this endless challenge of interoperability between various legacy systems and the challenges that clinicians and hospital IT managers have in gluing together all of their disparate systems? Is that what you're on about, or is this something different here?
No, that's completely what I'm on about. And I think interoperability is, it is a complication, it is a problem. And the NHS does appear to have, particularly here in the UK, and I'll focus on the NHS, that's where our home ground is. It certainly has that problem. To fix the issue, though, what we've seen is a trust do a couple of things. Firstly, RPA, robotic process automation, has been popular.
Yep.
The downside for RPA is it's quite limited. As I say, automation between two systems you're only going to be able to tackle certain processes with it.
Okay.
And if you start going into clinical processes, you can only go so far. The wheels come off eventually.
Yes.
Where you've got human decision and human in the loop, then it makes it hard to implement. The siloing of data is kind of frowned upon, and some of the CIOs then say, well, we're going to bring in a large EPR platform, and we're going to try and have a single system, single vendor across our trust, and that'll solve all of our problems.
Yes.
What we've seen in practice is it doesn't, and it's very much analogous to the ERP, same three letters, but in a different order. The ERP type fallacy, where organizations bring in large ERP systems into their organizations to try and tidy up a lot of their processes. But what actually happens is the system sits neat in the middle of their business, and you end up with 1,000 connections that aren't made around the outside of the system, where you've got legacy systems or where those platforms don't integrate.
Okay.
And then to resolve those problems, people then start to put administrative teams in place, and they start to put what you might call swivel chair or type of teams that then hold those processes together. We kind of see it in view. We see that trusts and the people that work in them shouldn't have to work really bridging the gaps where these large behemoth systems that are implemented, where they don't fill the gaps. We don't think that should be done by people. The other issue is that when you've got then fast changing environments, we've had COVID over the last 18 months.
Yes, I've heard about that.
Yeah. So as these things happen, they pose obviously very, very challenging, very dynamic. Having a large single vendor platform, which is a one size fits all and it's not really customizable, doesn't then lend itself to being able to sort out whatever pathways are occurring or whatever challenges and processes that are needed to support those organizations. And again, this all comes back to, why might you want a platform that's a no-code platform? Why might you want a system that allows you to respond incredibly quickly? Where we've worked in COVID particularly, we've built portals, LAMP testing. Don't ask me to go through the acronym.
No worries. You already get a gold star for trotting out numerous acronyms.
Good. Oh, good. We may need to subtitle. But the effectively spitting in a tube, the high frequency testing for COVID for clinicians. We've built a portal with one of our customers for that sits amongst 11,000 of its staff. But then we've also built in no code a laboratory system, so that as people submit their samples, the team of who are sitting in the laboratory can then get the sample, reconcile it with the staff member, run all the tests, and then get the results back to that to that staff member. So a lot of that has been built within weeks. Integrates natively into legacy systems, and the way that's made possible is with this no code approach.
Yeah, which, as you said before, can lead to somewhere between 10 and 20 times faster production of the platform. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
You still need to know what you want. You still need to know the process and the design. None
course.
of that changes.
Yeah.
But the bit in the middle, where traditionally you would have then spent a number of months developing something.
Yes.
That
Very
can be
interesting. So I don't want to get too Californian about this, as they say, but taking a very, very big step back, is it correct to say that the entire software industry from its beginning was essentially a craft industry, where it was craftsmen that were writing the code, so to speak? And am I right? There's been this, how do you say it, debate and exploration over the past decade. How, if at all, can you move beyond this craft industry, whether you have 1 or 10 or 100 or 10,000 programmers in the basement of your building? And are you part of that, what do you want to call it, transition from making cars by hand in the 1860s to stamping cars out in a gigantic factory in the 1920s to robotics doing everything beyond that in, if I can continue the car analogy, in the 1970s?
To some degree, yes. I think the trap, and one area that we're not, I guess, looking at, is where you try to replace human decisions, so human expertise.
Sure.
I'm a firm believer in humans being one, and
yeah, they have their uses, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. And I think systems that can work, well with people, with us. I did use a term, invisible tech, once. I'm not sure how much that is understood.
Invisible
technology. And really what I meant by that, stick with the car analogy, is you don't, when you've been driving a car for a number of years, it's second nature. You don't think about it. And you make, if you're on this side of the pond, you change gear subliminally, you adjust speed, turn left and right. You don't think about what's in front of you. And if you think day to day, if you look at what clinicians are having to interface into, you've got very clunky systems.
Right.
They're complicated. They're making you think. That causes error, possibly at worst case.
Sure.
And that's wrong. And so you need technology that actually supports people and supports people in making their decisions. AI is very useful, but it's more of a shortcut of being able to, if you've got a large data set, AI can be very powerful.
Yes.
But I'm not a firm believer in this. AI is going to take over all the decision making and these things.
No, it's a very good point. Yeah. I mean, the UX theme that you have just touched on is obviously unbelievably important. And I'm assuming it's fair to say that the vast majority of people who buy a new mobile phone don't read the user's manual. They don't refer to any instruction manual. And that's the genius of a technology platform which has evolved with human interface, success. And yet we do hear a lot about what you just mentioned, which is that there are an awful lot of whatever you want to call it, old school clunky interfaces still in existence, legacy systems still in hospitals, for example, that certainly aren't quite as snazzy or easy to use or intuitive as Apple or an Android interface. And so plenty of distance to go in that area. Is that a focus for you guys? You touched on this whole UX theme. Is that quite important? Is that part of your offer? Is that why people buy from you?
I think so, yeah. I mean, in the outside of healthcare, so I give an example outside of healthcare and legal.
Sure.
They've got the same clunky interfaces. In some ways, it's a similar problem. And a number of occasions we're coming in and building systems which sit over a number of different platforms, in a sense reskinning, veneering, but it means that the partners, I guess, almost equivalent challenges in some ways as clinicians when using these systems, have something that is giving them a single view. It's giving them the information that they need to be able to make their decisions at that point.
Right.
And that's kind of hard to measure in terms of how does that then affect? How does that improve your operation of your trust or of your business?
Yes.
And it does require some faith and belief. But I think the current world's changing. I think with the millennials taking over a number of the management positions now, as effectively millennials get older, and then you've now got the new generation coming in. I'm not a firm believer of all these categories, but there's expectations on technology. There's expectations on how technology should feel, how it should look, and I don't think people are willing to tolerate some of the older standards for how older systems were designed that I remember starting out on.
No, that's a very good point. It doesn't have to be like that. However, there must be reasons for it. For example, I know this is obvious, but the average NHS hospital trust has limited budgets, which they can apply to any aspects of IT. It'd be great to replace all the old stuff, but it's not necessarily easily affordable. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, some of these systems we're talking about actually are not cheap. They're incredibly expensive. They're still being made today.
Okay.
With our technology, just to probably prove controversial, but that's fine. I'm willing to stand by that.
Good. No, we like controversy.
Well, I think with our system, we make it so you don't have to move out the legacy. I think that's another problem is if you bring some new technology and say, get rid of all your legacy and just use my system, that's not going to work.
No.
And so you need to be able to integrate into your existing platforms. And as you need to, for instance, with cancer pathways, where you've got these challenges, where you've got these multidisciplinary team challenges, and you need to adapt and create a system which supports those pathways, then you can use our technology to do that. And,
absolutely.
And it's very much an ecosystem and evolution, not revolution. And I think that's the key here.
Nice. Yeah. Evolution, not revolution.
It's a cliche term, but again, it fits well.
And it's not your engineering outlook or background coming through, is it? When earlier in this conversation you said that, would you say humans have their uses, or they're not so bad, or something like that? Pardon me for being cheeky, but this is all.
Yeah, exactly.
Matt, this is all very interesting. How do people find you? How do going back to your business and how your business runs and how it's successfully expanding? And once again, very impressive what you guys have accomplished. So what was it? The first client who walked by your window and saw a poster, but is that the entire basis for your business development, or how do companies find you? How do you find customers? What's the journey like from no sales lead to somebody paying you for the very cool things that you guys do?
Look, it's hard, and I wish that having an advert in a window was a scalable marketing approach. I can't afford a window. That's my problem. With the current funding that we've taken, we're putting a huge amount of that into sales and marketing, which is more around awareness.
Nice.
Our system includes technologies like robotic process automation, which has proved quite popular in healthcare. We also combine that with no code and no code apps, and that's kind of new, particularly in the UK. That's a new concept. It's a concept that's not being talked about at the sort of the high up government organizations at the moment. They're still very much fixated on the robotic process automation. They're showing signs that they understand this technology, and this is they're aligning to it. But I think it's our job to explain how this can work in trust within healthcare organizations, and that's going to take time as we build out these new applications and we show how this new technology can work.
Who buys it? I mean, is there a lady in every hospital and her job title is head of robotic process automation procurement?
There's a couple of ladies who we're talking with at the moment who I would think have that job title plus a whole lot more, chief digital information officer, head of digital, CIOs, CCIOs. what really works, particularly within the UK, is the IT directors
Okay.
are really great.
Yeah.
They understand this tech. They're also not too high that they're only looking at the sort of the really huge projects. They're able to kind of see this technology and apply it
Right.
down to sort of real use cases quite
Cool.
quickly. Well,
So these are
yeah,
the people that are in the hospital running the IT systems.
that's right. They see the problems.
Yeah.
They're effectively on that. They've got a backlog of things that they need to work through. They're our best customers, but to some degree, the NHS in the UK is one of the most exciting sectors to be working in. Extremely innovative, and the great thing is the technology that you build, it goes straight into live operation ultimately, and it's doing really good things. And
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
as an engineer, just to call back on as being an engineer, there's nothing more thrilling than building technology that actually gets used, picked up, people rely on it. That's a great feeling.
Of course it is. Yeah, yeah. And the fact that, it's not you doing some work reaching one person. It's you and your team creating this platform, which is implemented and is reaching perhaps millions. And so that's obviously extremely gratifying.
It is. And yeah, I'm just excited to see what the future holds ultimately, and where we go. With our customers, particularly in healthcare, we're very much focused in the UK at the moment, and all going well. And fingers crossed, we make it over the pond as well into the US, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, let me know. And I'll phone all my friends who I grew up with in America and ask them to buy from you now. No, but joking aside, let's talk about the future. So you've very, very clearly and interestingly explained what you guys do and some of the problems out there and how you guys are successfully solving them. Where will you be 5 years from now? Is it just trying to implement this into how do you say it, market penetration, or do you feel as if your business will be doing completely different things that you can't even forecast just yet?
I think the crux of our platform, we're spending a lot of time on building a platform that you can build capability on very quickly, and that will adapt and integrate into businesses with in a frictionless way. I think that theme will continue. We're going to just build out the best toolkit. That's what we want to do. The other thing that we are having to do is build those serving suggestions, build those example applications, build those CRMs, these cancer pathway platforms, those laboratory systems, portals, whatever it may be, and build out more of our integrators. So within healthcare, connecting in with all the big names and all the big technologies.
Brilliant.
That's where we focus our efforts. In 5 years, that's too far in the future I can see a couple of years at least, there's a lot to be going on with at the moment.
Yes, excellent. What else can we do to support you guys? I mean, Toca is an incredibly interesting business. We are a global community. Like I said, GIANT Health is nearly 200,000 people now around the world. Our informal strapline is that we convene the global community of everybody whose business is healthcare, tech, and innovation. So, for example, do you have any asks of the community? Are you recruiting? Are you looking for partners to help you in terms of strategic channels, or what type of thing? If there's any listeners around the world that might overlap with your world.
Yeah, all of those things. So in terms of recruitment, we're building out a no-code team. So we have our own no-code team to build out these applications. So specialists with healthcare, please reach out. Partners. So our main focus is to go partner-centric. If we've got a platform that allows you to, in a very quick way, build capabilities that you can take into the clinical areas and also the administrative areas within trust, within healthcare organizations. We want to do that with partners. We're not looking to own all of that ourselves. We don't have the insights. We haven't got the capacity to see that. Our partners do. So we would very much like to hear from those organizations. And then finally, look, we're working directly with a number of NHS trusts at the moment. We'd love to talk with other trusts and show them how they can work differently and ultimately solve a number of problems using our technology. So
Nice.
that'd be great.
Yeah, excellent. Hey, well, look, Matt, this has been an incredibly interesting conversation. I wish we were sitting in a nice beer garden in a pub and we could buy a pint and continue talking for another hour. This has been extremely informative and insightful, and I've certainly learned a lot already, and also found it very interesting and exciting to hear about your journey and what you guys have accomplished at Toca already. We have run out of time, though, so I'm just going to say once again, thank you very much. Obviously, on behalf of everybody at Giant and our whole community, we want to thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing the extremely interesting information. And of course, wishing you luck with all of your current successes and many future successes, I'm sure.
That's very much appreciated. And thank you, Barry, and thank you, everybody, for your time.
Excellent. And Matt, we also obviously want to thank you and Toca for sponsoring Giant. As a reminder to all of our listeners, Giant Health is running a big annual event at the end of this month on the 30th of November and 1st of December. That's the Giant Health event, which the Financial Times refers to as Europe's largest, most valuable annual healthcare tech event. That's in London. So we invite all of our listeners to go to our website, www.giant.health, and check out the Giant Health event. We hope you can join us. It's free of charge for all healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, hospital managers. So love to see everybody there. We also hope that you have enjoyed this episode, and if so, we invite you to like this on YouTube, to subscribe to the channel so we can encourage and build a bigger, more supportive community around the world. Once again, I'm Barry Shrier, been delighted to speak with Matt from Toca, and thank you to all of our listeners. Thank you and goodbye.